lead, and he'll be speaking later today. How do pirate programs store their data? In arrays. It's tough. I can't. I don't know. He has one more. I'm going to give you this one too. Why do Java programmers need glasses? Because they don't see sharp. I love it. All right, our next speaker is Ray Camden, who, did I pronounce that right? Who works at IBM as a developer advocate. He runs a very popular blog on Cordova, PhoneGap, Ionic, and all things. I would definitely check it out. I'm sure he'll let you know all about it.
Yeah.
And I'll let him go from there. Go ahead, Rick.
Hello. Hi. Just real quick, this is my first time in this office. I've been in the city before, and this is an awesome office. But every time I pass up this, playing Fallout 4, am I the only person who thinks this? So yeah, I'm Ray Camden. I work for IBM, so I'm wearing a tie. We can all agree that I'm wearing a tie somewhere there. I'm focused on mobile stuff. We have a lot of products related to that. I'm not talking about anything IBM today, actually, except for one small slide. I also spend a lot of time just working on Cordova and PhoneGap and basically building a lot of demos that involve cats and are not practical in any fashion whatsoever. Please don't use my code, please. Be inspired. Build something else based from my blog. I would love that, but please don't copy the code. It's horrible. Yeah, so my blog, RaymondCamden.com. I tweet at Raymond Camden. And the apocalypse begins. There was a storm coming, right? I tweeted at Raymond Camden, and I'm the author of a Cordova book that I've already given away, but I still have the client-side data storage book in my laptop bag. So if you've ever done anything, whether it's Cordova or just regular JavaScript, and we're curious about storing data on the client, I have a book. All right, so I want to begin by apologize, and there's a good reason for this. I've been talking about PhoneGap for a long time, I think 3 or 4 years or so. And when it first came out, it was really, really cool to me. And if you've been on my blog for a while, you know when I get into something, I get really, really excited. I write about 20,000 blog posts, not always the most intelligent type things. But especially for PhoneGap, I know that when I presented it, I may have possibly oversold it just a tiny bit. Like, all you got to do is install this CLI. Well, back then it was an Eclipse plugin. Oh my God. All you got to do is in 5 minutes, you're done. And you're mobile, it's perfect, right? That's all you had to do. And that led to some really bad misconceptions. To be fair, 4 years ago, okay? Although this person has, I think, more Stack Overflow rep than I do. That's okay. So there were a lot of things that I think we've left out, and a lot of things I think that still need clarification. So the story of PhoneGap, Cordova, etc., is really easy, right? We have these tools, you do it, etc. Everything past that requires some more thought, right? You're not just bundling HTML, you're actually building something new. So things are slightly more complicated. And so I am an evangelist for IBM, and like 5/10 of my job is going on Google Images and finding weird crap. And when I Googled for a slightly more complicated, this showed up. Now, this has nothing to do with the rest of the talk, but I can't wait to buy this and wake up my kids one day and just scare the hell out of them. I have a bunch of kids, so I live for stuff like that. So things that I've learned in my 15 years or so of writing programs is that apparently America is just one country. Just one. And there's other countries out there. It's amazing. I watch the news. They never talk about other countries, except for how they're hurting us. And apparently, they use the internet too, and they use it quite a bit. But that's not the end of it. What's really weird is that, well, first, they speak a different language. That's okay. That's fine. And they use a different way of measuring things, and that's never been a problem, right? That they use metric and we use English. That's never caused any type of, let's say, $125 million piece of space crap just break because someone decided to use feet instead of meters. That's probably like one JIRA ticket. Someone should check to make sure. Priority low. So yeah, and they also tend to write things differently a bit as well. So numbers and dates can be different. So as a simple example, this would be 1,000,099, and in different countries, they'll swap that around, and in other countries, they'll even take the commas out. Now, looking at that, I guarantee you, if you saw that third number, your brain would just fix it, right? If you saw the second number, your brain would just fix it as well. You would still read it as 1,000,099 because our brains are really good at just making things right when it sees things that are a bit wrong. There you go. But things get a bit different for a date. So for a 2016, is that April? Raise your hand if that's April. Okay. How about, is that August? All right. So the good news is that's my birthday, so you're both right on that. Okay? That's not a joke. You can definitely buy me a gift in August, too. I won't complain. So looking at this, we can kind of focus in on a couple of things: numbers, currencies, and dates. So the easiest solution is to just ignore it. Raise your hand if you've ignored it. I know, yeah, come on, everybody. I've ignored it as well. Going back to where I kind of started this rant about all the things we skipped over, I definitely skip over a lot of it as well. I'm guilty. Real solution is to look at where the device is being used, format your numbers and your dates so that it makes sense for the end user. And just so you know, you can't just format American money into euros. That would be really, really stupid. And I definitely don't have a blog post where I did exactly that. I swear I don't. There is, luckily, something baked in. Well, not baked in. There is a plugin that's been around for a very long time, the Globalization plugin. Raise your hand if you've actually used it. Now, how about this? Shouldn't every single hand go up? Period. I mean, unless you're doing like a enterprise iOS app where your entire company is in one country, every single person here with a public app on the App Store should be thinking about this, and every single person should be either doing it with this or some. For those of you who did not raise your hand, are you using a different solution? A few more. Good. Okay. Shame on the rest of you, and me too. All right, so you can find the plugin dots there, and hopefully everyone knows how to add a plugin via the CLI. It supports everything I've talked about: numbers, currencies, and dates. We'll also tell you stuff, so if for some reason you wanted to know what the locale of the current user is, or even like if you wanted to know dynamically how they format stuff, like the comma or period or period comma, you actually have programmatic access to that. I don't really know why you would do it. I just said that. And you can even check to see if it is daylight savings time, because apparently that's still a thing. Every time that comes around, I'm reminded of that story that we read in middle school, The Lottery, right? Where it's like a modern day, like, oh yeah, let's go kill somebody with stones at the same time. That's what daylight savings time is. No one's going to argue with me on that? Is there someone from the pro daylight savings time group here? So the good news is that all you have to do is just add the Pyre app is done. No. Unfortunately, it requires a bit more work than that. So what you would begin to do is to look at each of your views, see the data in there, and then figure out what kind of makes sense to actually localize. So this is a simple app. By the way, I have 6 kids, so that's not my checking account. I could just lop off a digit or two. That's more my Walmart shopping right there. But you can see a couple things in there that we could immediately start looking at. Oh, those are things that I could localize. Now, by the way, actually, every single thing on that screen is something that we can look at localize. So, for example, total and account could be translated to French. Le total and le account. Yes. 3 years in high school, 2 years in college, and that's all I remember. But ask me about Star Wars, I'm your man. All right, so I'm just today focusing on the numbers, right? IBM does have a really cool tool that can help you with localizing strings. It's an automatic service, and nobody recommends automatic translation, but during prototyping, it's a very handy service. You basically send them a packet of strings like accounts, dates, whatever, and they'll give you, I think, Chinese, French, Spanish, Klingon, who knows. So this is some really, really simple Angularish code, just to kind of show you like what was kind of driving that particular application. By the way, I know I started late. It says I have 2 minutes left. Is that really right? Because I've not been talking for more than 5 minutes, right? I have 2 minutes left? Okay. I talked for 18 minutes already? Okay. All right. So this is the sample code, just to kind of show you what it's like to use the plugin. That's a simple example. It is asynchronous, which is fine, right? We're all cool with working asynchronously. I did kind of summarize the code a bit for the options, but you could pass things in there kind of to change how it works. In terms of options, you have things involving decimal places, fractions, currency, etc. By the way, currency doesn't work in the browser platform. Who here uses the browser platform for testing? More of you should use it. I kind of avoided it for a while, but it's pretty cool. In terms of dates, you have multiple different ways of rendering dates, as well as saying to just show the time. So this is the initial example. And then if we change the locale to French, but keep the language English, which is what you can do, then we see it modified. The date and the number is changed. And again, we're not pretending yours, or euros. Change the language, but keep the locale back at US, and you see now it's rendering it as a French person would expect to see American money. The date is still right. And just for the heck of it, let's do a third option. Change both the region and the language. And did you notice what happened? The euro actually bounced from one side to the other. And the reason for that is I have no idea at all. But it's just interesting. I'm sure there's a very good reason for that. When it comes to currency specifically, I would probably then maybe avoid using that part of the plugin and sticking to the number format. It will also stop you from making the stupid mistake I did of just taking American money and just pretending it's a euro. So, being more proactive and saying, this is a number I know it's euro, so I will specifically use the euro symbol, will make it a bit less easy to mess up. So that's it. That's all you have to do. You do the formatting, you're done. You can move on from here and just be happy about it. Except what happens when you have a lot of data. So in this HTML table, I still rock HTML tables because they work. I'm not spending an hour looking up CSS Flexbox. I'm not ashamed to say that. Look at all those rows of numbers, quantities and profits and dates. That's a lot of stuff, right? So the solution is promises, right? Just promise the hell out of that. And of course, I mean JavaScript promises. So I will fully admit promises confuse the heck out of me. Am I allowed to say that? I mean, I'm supposed to be smart, but I'm not. But promises took me like forever to get around. So if they confuse you as well, I definitely recommend just struggling, keeping at it. If you've ever had to deal with 2 or more AJAX requests and just say, when they're done, do something, promises definitely help with that. They also help you avoid callback hell, etc. It's a pain, trust me, but get through it and you'll be able to do it. And actually, so this app, on my blog, I have a full example showing how to work with promises and basically send it an array of data and say, when you're done, give me the data back in the French format, whatever, so I can just render that out. So in terms of some alternatives, there are many date libraries out there. While I was talking, 5 more new JavaScript libraries came out. One of them is probably date involved. But we all use moment.js, so just use that. The other alternative, there's actually something called Intl. Who here has heard of it in terms of the ECMAScript, I should say, ECMA API. No one's heard of this. One person. Okay, a few people. Yeah, this is everything that's done in a plugin baked into the browser, right? And PhoneGap is really pro that. Like, once the browser supports something, stop using the freaking plugin. Let the browser do what it should do. It supports everything that I've just showed you, all the formatting, currency, numbers, dates, etc. It's synchronous, so it's a bit simpler to use. Yes, I said that. And I have an article at that really ugly URL talking about using it. So it's perfect, right? You could dump the plugin. You need nothing else. So whenever we talk about a really cool web feature, what do? We go to caniuse.com, or as I call it, amiabouttocry.com. Don't go there, by the way. I just made that up. It's probably a porn site. We go to caniuse.com, and before you go there, you think to yourself, well, okay, browsers support Canvas and drawing stuff, right? Certainly something as important as the entire planet will obviously be supported, right? And like Apple just released some weird CSS thing, right? Like paging or something. Yeah, this is international. This is bringing this world peace, right? This is the world peace spec. So I go to caniuse.com, and it's awesome. It's all green everywhere except for Opera Mini. Everyone supports it, so it's safe to use, so you can skip the plugin completely. Almost. So eventually, maybe one day, iOS will support it as well. But I bring it up because it is a cool spec. If you're not supporting Apple for some reason, then that may be an option for you to use. So just to wrap up, a few quick notes. I'm American. I am in America. But what should happen when I look at an event in France? It should be formatted to me, right? But when I look at that, am I thinking, well, you should be formatting it for you because it's your French event, right? Or it should be formatted for me because you're being nice. And I bring this up because anytime you do something automatic, you should try to be, proactive about. I was in San Francisco about to attend a meetup, and I looked online, and the time was 8 p.m. I thought that's a bit late. That's about my bedtime, but I'll do it. And then it really bothered me, so I kept checking, and I found like the real site for it. And it turns out it was 6 o'clock, and the website was helping me by reformatting it in Central, which is my time zone, because apparently no one's heard of freaking airplanes, right? Every time I travel international and Google helps me by giving me a local search engine, I'm like, I'm just traveling. So I'm saying to use this, but also be kind of very clear about how you're using the formatting and make sure that the end user is really aware of what they're seeing. And that's it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, man. That was awesome. Very funny.
I tried.
Cool. Well, we're running a little short on time, so you're going to have to find him.